Every time Thomas walked into the room, or she would hear his voice, dread would pass over her. It made her throat tighten and her chest beat hard. Her body would tense. Her mind became nearly incapable of reasonable thought in response to his presence. Hello, welcome to In My Words. The book I am reading from is titled The Monster We Call Dad by D.A. Riles. This book is not intended for young readers. After each reading session, I will briefly give information about a chosen plant. I hope through my words you will gain insight, knowledge, and a deeper appreciation and understanding of this mysterious and intricate world. Though the road may be long and hard, compassion and beauty can be gained through the enjoyment of nature and experiencing its wondrous gifts. Thank you for joining me. August 1964. Sarah's little brother Johnny was born. Mom took 2 weeks off from work, yet this was not long enough for her little daughter. Having Mom home would cause friction within the family, but Sarah didn't mind. She missed her mom, for she always seemed to be at work. Sometimes Mom was gone for many days at a time. Usually, it was because of a fight that Dad and she would have. Other times, she would just up and leave, for she needed a break from all the chaos. While working, Mom and Dad left the young children to fend for themselves many times throughout their lives. This was normal for their family. Sometimes it was nice when they weren't at home, but when they were both gone for days at a time, it was very frightening for the children. Jane didn't like living in this place that most people would call home. To her, it was like being in a prison. The constant struggle of life and death seemed to play out nightly. Every time Thomas walked into the room, or she would hear his voice, dread would pass over her. It made her throat tighten and her chest beat hard. Her body would tense. Her mind became nearly incapable of reasonable thought in response to his presence. He literally sickened her, and yet she still loved him. How could two such extremes exist within her? She didn't like his touches anymore, but for some reason she wanted his intimacy. She didn't like his professions of love, for he would only tell her he loved her when he was drunk. Jane began to mistrust everything and everyone, including her children. Her thought process changed. She became a hollow shell, devoid of feeling. She was unable to see beyond the thick, impenetrable gray wall that was ever present before her eyes. She knew she couldn't continue to live like this for the rest of her life, but was unsure of what to do. Divorce was only something she could dream about, at least for now. Chapter 13. Return to work. Mom went back to work after Johnny turned 2 weeks old. Since Johnny was still so young, Grandma Nye was going to stay with the children for a while to help out. Grandma would have Grandpa drive her to Rice on Monday and pick her up on Friday. On the weekends, Dad would watch the children if Mom were working. Sarah absolutely loved having Grandma staying with them. No one was ever punished. No one was ever yelled at. It was as if they were some sort of perfect family, just like Dad would talk about. I have the greatest family on earth, Dad would say many times through Sarah's life. Sarah had actually believed it when Grandma was there. When Johnny turned 2 months old, Grandma talked to Mom about watching the children. Jane, Lena said that fateful day, Pa and I can't keep driving down here twice a week. It's just too much for us. You need to find yourself a babysitter. I know, you're right, Mom, but I just don't know if Thomas will go for it. Grimacing, Lena said to her only daughter, tell Thomas that he can afford one until Johnny is at least 2 years old. You can't take any of the kids out of school to watch the 2 younger ones. Yeah, but I just don't know, Jane hedged. Do you want me to talk to him? Or what about Pa? You know that Pa will be sure to get through to him. Hesitating, Jane sat quietly for a moment. She knew Thomas didn't like Pa. She knew he always felt intimidated by him. Rarely did the 2 dads talk to each other. Coming to a decision, Jane spoke up. No, I'll work it out. I'll be sure the kids have someone to watch them. They better, Lena stated sternly. I really mean it, Jane. You can't let your children take care of Johnny and Sarah. They have to go to school. Lena wanted to be certain that her daughter understood that she must have someone help with the youngest child. Jane did understand. That weekend, Jane talked to Thomas during one of their many wine suppers. Broaching the subject coyly, she said, "Remember how Mom said they couldn't keep driving here? It's just getting too hard on Dad. You know how sick he always is, and it's hard for him to get around." Jane started to worry. Thomas just sat there, not moving or saying a word. She began to think that perhaps tonight wasn't the night to ask Thomas about the babysitter. Then it came. "You want a babysitter, don't you?" he accused. "Yes," was her simple response. "For how long?" No emotion came from Thomas. "Just until Johnny is 2. Jane winced for a brief moment as her husband raised his hand, but he didn't strike. He brushed at an imaginary hair on his face. Thomas liked seeing that scared look on Jane. He seemed to thrive on it. Finally, Thomas responded, "Fine, I'll have George take care of the kids for a while. Then Elizabeth, then maybe Ma." "Do you really think that your brother and sister will be able to take care of the kids?" Jane questioned. "What are you trying to say?" Thomas asked suspiciously. "Well, I just mean that, sometimes they don't like taking care of the kids," she lied, not wanting to cause an argument. Thomas shrugged it off and said, "Don't worry, the kids will be taken care of." That was the end of their conversation. So Jane was led to believe that the children would have a babysitter, so she too dropped the subject. Today's highlighted plant is carrot. Carrots are a root vegetable. They come in many sizes and lengths. The smallest is about 1 inch in diameter and approximately 1 inch long. The largest can grow to over a foot in length. They can have anywhere from a slender diameter, around 1/2 inch, or 4 inches or larger, depending on how long they are left in the ground to grow. Carrots come in various colors, such as white, yellow, red, orange, and some are even purple. When I was growing up, I was told to never eat the leafy green tops of the carrot, but I have been reading lately that this is no longer true. However, since I grew up being told to beware of that part of the plant, I still choose to not eat the leafy part. It's up to you to check into any reliable information and decide if that is something that you would like to try. Carrots are usually harvested in the autumn, or you can harvest them whenever you feel they are large enough for you to eat. I usually harvest the smaller carrots sometime in July to make room for the others to grow larger, and then I harvest them sometime in the autumn. I prefer to pick my carrots after a light frost, for they tend to become sweeter. They can be left in the ground after a hard frost, but not for very long, for then they will start to rot. This I have unfortunately learned through experience. One year I decided to see if my carrots would survive over the entire winter without any coverage. And I know that having done this, I was risking the chance of losing the carrots that I had saved to try to overwinter. But I wanted to see if it would work for me. Well, in my area of Zone 3, it didn't work. All the carrots had rotted in the ground by the time spring arrived. It's best to grow carrots in a raised bed to help prevent the carrot fly from attacking the carrot. The carrot fly is a maggot. It attacks the carrots from the inside out. If you choose to, you can also plant carrots in a large, deep planter, but make certain that you choose a planter that is at least 3 inches deeper than the longest length that your carrot is expected to grow. And be certain to keep it well watered, for being in pots or planters, they tend to dry out very quickly. Carrots can be cooked, baked, or eaten raw. After harvesting, they can be frozen, canned, or dehydrated to preserve the vegetable longer. Today's highlighted plant was the carrot. Please like, share, and subscribe. Next time I will highlight another plant and continue reading. If you would like to follow along with this reading, you may pick up the book titled The Monster We Call Dad by D.A. Riles at Amazon.com. I look forward to having you join me next time.